Hi and welcome to day 1 of week 5 of training cycle 2 of 2021. Today was a good day overall as I hit a 122.5 kilo squat, which is a 2.5 kilo lifetime PR, and it marks my progression away from 120 towards 130, 140, etc. 120 is technically 1.5 plates, actually 2.5 plates per side, and that's a specific number that is often difficult to reach and often difficult to progress from. It's mainly a mental thing, but obviously there is a physical element to it as well, as progressing beyond your best lift ever requires you to gain muscle most of the time, since you can't just magically technique away to getting stronger once you've been training for weeks and weeks and weeks. It's very uncommon that you get neural adaptations for completely no reason very deep into a training program, especially one based upon neural adaptations like Bulgarian training. Because like the thing with me, I've been doing this so far this year, pretty much the whole year and a couple of weeks in December last year, and so I don't know how many months that is. I know that it's probably like 4 months at this point, and then you take away a week and a half, a week, something like that. So I've been doing squats almost every day for 4 months, and at that point obviously your technique can improve, but it's more mobility related, muscle balance related. It's less that you need to practice the lift more, basically. Although some would argue I need to practice squatting more, at this point I would disagree. At this point, because in the scope of a larger training program, recovering from a significantly large amount of squatting than I'm doing right now isn't really realistic for my current life situation. And I hit my chin, by the way, on the bar there. I sound soft when I say that, but like realistically, I just turned 17. I'm on my way to big numbers. Like, I don't think I'm soft. I'm not soft. Whatever. Let's just leave it there, because I'm working cardio. I'm working jump rope. I'm working running. And pretty soon, not yet, but when the summer holidays come, have a little more free time, I'm going to start working taekwondo. I'm going to start working my actual sport again. We'll see how that goes, since I would have gained a little bit of body weight. So it's probably going to take a couple of days, couple of weeks to get into the groove, but we'll build up all the specific muscles and get all the movements back. See if we can move the same now that we've gotten bigger. I do believe I can move better, the same if not better, because I have the same ratios. I actually have better ratios, meaning I can produce, like, my lifts are stronger in proportion to my body weight, even though I gained a lot of body weight. And the reason they aren't way stronger compared to my body weight gain is because a lot of my body weight gain is height related. And then I'm also a growing teenager. So it's not really like I'm a 25-year-old who's, put on 7 kilos and all that is muscle. I don't know if I've actually put on more. No, I think it's 7 kilos at this point. When I fought in my first national championship, my second national championship, that was in 2019, when I got a bronze medal. I fought in the 68 kilo class, and I was walking around at 71, but I actually accidentally cut a kilo too much. So I went from, technically I was 72 at my absolute highest there, but I would say 71 was really where I was, like probably 2-3 weeks out, something like that. And then a couple of days out, then I stopped eating, did a bit of dehydration. I went from 71 kilos to 67. So I lost 4 kilos in like 3 days, I think, 2 days. I believe it was 3 days. I actually, honestly, truly can't remember, but I believe it was 3. 3 days of fasting, in which the last 24 hours was no water. I don't know how optimal that is, but like super advanced weight cutting, body manipulation methods. A lot of them sound very unhealthy. Like, obviously, it's unhealthy to fast for 3 days and then no water for the last 24 hours as a developing young man. At 15, I believe I was 15 at the time. Yeah, at 15 years old, obviously that's never going to be healthy for you to lose for 4 kilos in 3 days. But it's not as bad as drinking a bunch of water, flushing out all of your salts over a long 1 week period, and then just boom, taking away all the water. So now you've jacked up. Can't remember what hormone it is, but there's a hormone that makes you pee a lot, and or it regulates how much you pee compared to like how much you drink. And when you jack up your water drinking numbers basically, and then boom, now you decrease the water intake. Now you're gonna pee proportionately more to what you're taking in, and that way you're gonna dry yourself out even faster. Then you start adding saunas and sauna suits and Epsom salts. I think that's how they are named, and a bunch of different methods and diuretics. Then it starts getting really extreme, really dangerous for your internal organs. And there is a point of diminishing returns when it comes. Oh, sorry, I just got a big piece of news here. I might talk about that later. I just got it on the screen. What was I even talking about? I was talking about weight cutting, yeah. There's a point of diminishing returns in weight cutting, especially when you want to talk about a national level athlete in a fairly small sport like I'm doing. Like, to be realistic, the pool of competition is fairly small. You're really only competing against, 20 guys in your country. Now, obviously, there could be as many as 50 guys in your country in a year in a certain class. I'd say that's highly, highly unusual. Obviously, I'm going to say probably a normal year pre-pandemic. It really completely depends on the class, but I'm going to say that 20, 30 people that you really need to watch out for. However, I never really tracked opponents, never really checked lists beforehand. Like, I've never been that guy. I just train hard and show up to the competition, because it takes a lot of energy psychologically to, as an athlete, go through every single opponent. And I get it if you want to analyze them. Once again, I've never really been that guy. Might become that guy in the future, but for me at this point, for one, I don't really know which classes I'm going into. Number two, I don't really compete a lot right now, so I don't really have a good general idea anyway. Number three, I don't even know how I look and perform myself in these new weight classes. And number four, it's stressful, going through all these different people, because like I can watch a UFC fight, not be nervous at all. Then I can go ahead and watch a taekwondo fight, and my heart rate just goes up out of nowhere. Now, isn't that way all the time? I mean, I can watch a fight and not get stressed, but then just randomly some memory pops into my head and the heart rate increases. But I do think that's pretty normal, because like, if you want to compete and fight, like, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like taekwondo is the most dangerous sport in the world, but the fact is you can get kicked in the head and you can get knocked out, and I don't know if anyone's died. I'm guessing that someone probably has died doing taekwondo. It's not very high probability, but brain damage, just getting kicked in the face in general. I'm not that scared of that, to be honest. As an athlete, you're often more scared of getting fatigued than you are of getting hurt. So that's really why my adrenaline goes up, is I'm scared of that feeling of being tired. And I'm aware of that, and that's basically been a big focus of my training for the last, almost 2 years at this point, is to really, really work on that cardio. And I started doing that early summer in 2019. Really, really started putting a lot of effort into the running. With time, my knees have gotten better since I had some knee issues in the past. I do believe there was probably a lot behind them, and that deserves probably a 20-minute video in itself. And a part of it is overuse injuries, a big part of it. A part of it is muscle balance. But another part of it is how much I grow. For example, right now I'm not growing in height very much, and I find that I don't really get any knee pain at all. Very minimal. Like right now I had zero knee pain, and then obviously squatting every day helps your knees. It's very healthy for your knees. And if you can't squat every day, there could be a pretty serious knee issue there. Like if the knees are limiting you. And that's not to put you down, that just means that you need to find out what works for you. You need to probably work on your hamstrings, maybe your glutes, your glute medius. Those are pretty common weak muscles. Some people need to work on their calves and I have no idea what it's called. Like now we're getting into like small little bitty muscles that no one gives a fuck about, no one's ever heard of, but that muscle, say it's your right shin, you feel that sharp blade of the shin, then a bit to the right of that on your right shin, that now you get like a meaty, beefy part that's right next to the shin that lifts your foot up. So it creates like artificial dorsiflexion basically. That muscle right there, you may have to work on that. That can help with knee health. But I think the main thing is just working on hamstrings and glutes, just making sure your posterior chain isn't being completely overpowered by your quads. And it's the same thing in pretty much every joint in your body. Training, in training, we need to create a balanced body. It isn't about just being anal about exactly how you look and being a stupid bodybuilder who, spends half the day in front of the mirror. But it is important to look at your strength and your performance and realistically figure out where you're weak and to work on those places. Because if we are significantly stronger on one side of a joint versus the other, things are going to be pulled to one side and you're going to end up with other imbalances and ultimately injuries. I say this is most common in the knee and shoulder joints because that's where I see it a lot. Guys really working a lot too hard on their front delts and, having really weak rear delts. And, I don't really think most of the time it isn't an issue of one side being too strong. I think it's more of the other side being too weak. That's the way I like to see it. It's the same thing when guys say, I have one leg stronger than the other, what do I do? Should I make sure that leg gets weaker while making the other stronger? I'm like, no. Keep that leg as strong as it is. Let's say you're doing Bulgarian split squats, right? That's a pretty common single-legged exercise, right? Let's say you can do, I don't know, I have no idea, I've never done the exercise with heavy weights, but say you're doing 45 kilos on your right leg for 10 reps, and you're doing 45 kilos for 7 reps on your left leg. Well, some guys would be like, they would just stop training their right leg, and that's just laziness. What I would do is I would keep that right leg at 10 reps and then work up the left leg. That way, you don't really lose any strength on the right leg. Instead, your left leg catches up to your right. So in total, you're actually getting stronger. And that's the way I believe we should go about imbalances. We shouldn't focus on weakening the strong side. We should focus on strengthening the weak side so that it becomes as strong or slightly stronger than the strong side. And that way you can go back and forth, actually, which that is a big part of many advanced programs. Although many advanced lifters fail to see what they're actually doing. I follow a couple of big channels here on YouTube, and I think that's what they're doing subconsciously is, they're working their pecs a little more, and now their triceps are weak. So now they're working their triceps a little more, now their shoulders are weak. So they're working their shoulders, like on the bench press, for example. They're going through all these different muscles. Oh, now it's their upper back. And to me, it's like, bro, why didn't you build all these muscles concurrently? And I get it. I'm not an advanced lifter by any means. And when you are, what an advanced lifter basically is you basically can't make any fucking progress, man. Especially if you're natural. Especially get fucking strong. You're natural, don't want to get fat and gain a bunch of weight. Well, you're going to make stupidly slow progress. you're lucky to put 5 kilos on your bench a year if you are natural and if you are really elite. So at that point, I can see the merit in splitting up your psychological focus on these different muscles, because it's just too daunting to imagine just putting muscle in on everywhere. It's easier to focus on a couple small things at a time, and I get that. But sometimes I do think that people limit themselves by just focusing on one weak point when you could just bring up the entire system of muscles associated with movement. Wow, I'm actually impressed how my brain works this well this late in the evening, because this is technically Tuesday that I'm recording this. I'm pretty sure that I'm going to crash pretty fucking hard, tomorrow morning when I wake up, because school has started again. Right now I have online classes, which sucks balls. Like, no one ever became smart off on online classes. Like, they just suck. By the way, this second set was really shitty. It felt shitty. I had a tough time figuring out what it was. And in the third set, which is coming up here, I really figured it out. And the trick is to take deep breaths and then just push the hips back. And I don't really need to think of going deep at that point. I'm not going quite as deep. Another thing is getting that bar really far down on my back. And it looks silly, and it is silly, but I don't want that bar to slide up and get on my lower neck. And, I'm not an experienced lifter when it comes to this exercise in particular. Like, if people give me bench press advice, I'll usually be annoyed. But if they give me good morning advice, fine. Unless you've never done the exercise. If then your opinion doesn't really matter. Like, people who think that I'm going to get injured on good mornings, like, I don't really care what you think at that point. But yeah, unless, of course, I would be doing 1 rep maxes with good mornings with bad form. Well, at that point, yeah, I'm probably going to snap my shit, but not doing that because I'm not stupid, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.